Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Roscoe's Wetsuit Neuro Podcast. I am your host, Toby Passman. On the show with me today, we have a special guest, Nelson Tressler. Nelson has a very interesting story. He, when he was 15 years old, his mom had him when he was 15 years old. She was pregnant. When she was pregnant, her father shot two police officers, and her mother testified at her grandfather's murder that the reason that her father shot the police officer was because he had raped her, and she was now pregnant with him. He's the author of The Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstance, but a product of your choices. He's also started a new business to help other people overcome their adversities through goals and personal development called IGotSmarter. And he previously worked at a top 5 commercial real estate firm for the last 20 years. I could keep going, but Nelson, I think that'll do for the introduction. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Toby. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I appreciate your transparency in terms of, on your bio, just being so forthright with kind of your story. Tell me a little about kind of, what it was like, I guess kind of growing up and figuring out a way to get out of such a kind of tough circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of read where my life started, with my mom and being born in 15 and her testifying at my grandfather's trial that she was raped by that police officer and was pregnant with me. My life actually, it didn't get any easier from that. I'm the child of a 15-year-old mother. Eventually, my mom ended up meeting a man who would become my stepfather, and come to find out he was very physically and emotionally abusive to me and my mom. And eventually they had 4 more children. And because of the lifestyle they were living, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings fell upon me as the oldest, and having to, do bottle feedings and diaper changes. And because of all of this, I suffered at school. I suffered socially. It was a pretty rough go. And then one day my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar, and somebody else was driving home drunk from that bar, and they hit and killed him. And as hard as my mom's life has been to this point, and it's been very hard for her, losing my stepdad pretty much broke her and left her with no hope. I mean, she had dropped out of school in the 8th grade, never worked outside of the home. And now here she was with 5 small children, trying to figure out how she was going to care for them. And it was at that time that she decided she was going to commit suicide and attempted to take her own life. Unfortunately, she was not successful in doing so. But when she got out of the hospital, it was at that time that she determined that she was not going to be able to care for all of us, and my family got split up. And I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And for the first time in my life, there's always food in the refrigerator. I don't have to worry about, my stepdad coming home drunk and beating me or my mom, and I don't have to worry about caring for my younger siblings. And I start to kind of reflect upon where my life is going, and I determine, it's not going in a direction that I want it to. And one day, a counselor from Penn State University, which was close to us, came and talked to us about what you needed to do to get into college. And I started to think, what if I graduated college, all of my problems would be solved. And that's kind of how I equated a college degree. And anyhow, what happens as soon as you start telling yourself you're going to do something that's hard and uncomfortable, your brain starts to scream at you all the reasons that you shouldn't even attempt to try that. And I remember thinking, at this time, I'm in special ed. I can't read, I can't write, I can't spell. I have dyslexia. And, and of the family that I come from, my Graham had 15 children. Of those 15 children, only 2 had ever graduated from high school. None had ever even attended a college. And so I started thinking to myself, well, I'm going to be lucky to graduate high school, let alone college. But, I had nothing to lose. So I went for it. Long story short, it took me 12 years. It took me 4 colleges. It took me 4 years in the United States Air Force, but eventually I did accomplish that goal and became the first person in my family to graduate from college.
Congratulations on that. It,
Thanks.
Nelson, was it? Tell me about, because you wrote the book that you came out with, the Unlucky Sperm Club. I see the headline right here on your website: "Stop being a victim of your circumstances and become a product of your choices." Did you, for a while, like growing up, I assume it had to have been pretty easy to feel like you were a victim of your circumstances. Is that fair to say? Did you have that mindset growing up?
Yeah, you know what? Early on, I definitely had a lot of anger build up, and I felt like a victim because all the things that I was dealing with, a lot of the things I was dealing with were not because of my doing. I didn't make the choice to shoot the police officer, and I didn't make the choice to, testify to the jury about being raped, and all of that, and yet here I was paying the consequences. So yeah, I had some of that early on in my life, but I also determined that regardless of whose fault it was, this was my life, and if I wanted to have a better life, I had to start making those choices. And I didn't even really know what goals were, back when I made that first goal to become, the first person in my family to graduate from college. But after I did accomplish that, um, I realized how much potential was inside of me, and that I could really do anything that I put my mind to. And that's when I became obsessed with goals and personal development. And pretty much over the last 25 years, I've used it in every area of my life to, as I'm sitting here, designed a life that I couldn't have imagined growing up.
And it sounds like it kind of took place after you had sort of proved to yourself that you could graduate college, which it sounded like for a while seemed like sort of a far-fetched notion, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, where you didn't know whether you're going to be able to, but then you showed yourself you could do that. And that is kind of where you got that confidence that you could do anything.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If you show somebody the potential that lies within them, and I believe all of us have great potential that lies within us. Once you show somebody that potential, they'll never be the same, and they'll never be willing to be satisfied without living that life that they know they're capable of. And that's what happened to me when I was able to get that college degree. I realized that I can accomplish hard things. I can do things that I never thought imaginable, and inside of me was somebody worth caring about. And as soon as I realized that, then I set out to live the best possible life that I could, and trying to reach my potential that I saw in there. It never really got recognized growing up because of who I was and what I represented. But, you know, I became, and this might sound arrogant, but I think everyone should do it, is I became my hero. And, the person that I was trying to become was, my hero. And I think we all have that hero inside of us, and we should all strive to become that hero.
Well said. Well, so what initially like motivated you to start, I guess, sharing your story with people?
Yeah.
Because that obviously had to have been a tough thing at first to probably speak to anyone about, let alone kind of the just a mass audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the only, when I joined the Air Force, I never moved back to that small town because of all the pain associated with that, and what I represented. And I ran away from that, and for the first time, I remember getting in the Air Force, and my last name didn't mean anything. And I could say my last name and people's eyes didn't dart down, or they didn't leave the room because they heard the last name Tressler. And it was so liberating. And I felt like, man, I can be anybody that I want to be, because nobody knew of my baggage that I had carried around my entire life. The only person that I ever told that story was my wife. And I told her that before we got married because I felt like, she deserved to know. And, but I never told my kids. I never told my in-laws or my friends, when I moved away from that town. So, and then, I used goals in personal development and was fortunate enough, to do really well in business and sales. And you kind of read off some of the resume there, but I was able to exit a few of those businesses. And I got to the point where, okay, what was I going to do with the rest of my life? And I definitely didn't want to sit on the beach and watch waves crash for the next 60 years. So I started to think about what it was, and I reflected upon my early life and what that meant and why I lived it and had to go through that. And I quickly determined that, I survived that so that I could go out there and motivate and inspire other people who are in tough situations and find themselves in hard circumstances, that they're not a victim of those circumstances, that they're a product of their choices. And, I'm on the backside of that now, and I've used goals and personal development to get here. And I want to take that message to as many people as I can so that they know, what, if you're not happy with where you're at, all you have to do is start making different choices, and you'll end up where you want to be, as long as you continue to do that on a consistent basis.
What are some of the biggest impediments that you find in your work that people face that are preventing them from achieving those goals that they're setting out to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think the biggest thing is people don't see the potential inside of them. They don't believe in themselves. I mean, I kind of talked about becoming your own best hero. I think there's so much negative self-talk out there. I mean, it's not fashionable to speak highly of yourself. People think you're conceited or arrogant. So people go the opposite end of that, and all they do is talk down about themselves. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not good at this, and I'm horrible at that. And so I think that's the one big thing, is people don't feel like they can accomplish that. But it's absolutely not true. I mean, I know, with enough time, enough energy, and enough focus, you can accomplish any goal that you put your mind to. And we're not the same today, as we said here. We're not the same person we're going to be in 20 years or 10 years or even 5 years. We're going to be a different person, and based off of the choices that we make is going to determine what person we are. I mean, as I said here talking to you 40 years, after, my childhood, I'm so far away from being that person. And that didn't start, that didn't happen today or yesterday. That happened, when I started making those choices to design this life that I knew I wanted to live, and really set out every single day to work on becoming this person, and that could live the life that I'm living now.
Awesome. Tell me about, so you have an app that you designed called IGotSmarter, which is a goal setting app. Tell me about it. It sounds like, is that sort of to help people? I mean, it sounds like kind of along the lines of what we're talking about right now, kind of helping people
Yeah.
stay on course. What inspired you to want to create an app?
Well, I mean, like I said, after I graduated from college, I became obsessed with goals and personal development, and used it in every area of my life, my health, my relationships, business and lifestyle, everything. And what I wanted to do was, I wanted to show other people how they could do that. Because, the one thing that I would see is, I would see these people who are living lives that they weren't happy living. And I could see that they were only a few choices away from changing their direction. I mean, it takes time and energy and a lot of choices to change your entire life, but they were only a few choices away, maybe even one choice away from changing the direction that they were going. And people would try to sit down and write down goals, but they just didn't have all the right tools, the right knowledge, and especially the support to see those goals through to the end. And I had helped people, set goals and write goals and spent hours and hours with them. And all of a sudden I would see them 3-4 weeks later after we spent 3 hours writing and designing their goals. And I'd ask them, I'd be so excited and ask them how they did. And, their eyes would drop to the floor and say, "Oh yeah, I got to get back on that." And it'd be like a kick in the gut, that I had spent all this time and they couldn't last a couple weeks. And eventually, what I have learned over the last 20 years, I built into this program called IGotSmarter. And one of the really cool things that I think helps, and, there's been all kinds of studies, but we have, you have the ability through this app to invite a success partner, as we like to call them. Some other people call them accountability, but we don't do that for various reasons, because they're there to help you be successful. They're there to motivate you and support you and encourage you. You're not accountable to them. You're accountable to yourself. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to change the world one person and one inspiring goal at a time. And everything that I learned over the last 25 years of being obsessed with goals and personal development, I wrote into this program, and I wanted it to be easy to use. So, we designed the app for it. And, I wanted it to be affordable. So, we charge $9.99 a month to use it. And it will help you accomplish your goals and really start designing the life that you want to live.
Awesome. What about, I recently talked to a podcast guest about this idea, kind of about willpower, about, there's some psychological studies I've seen where, willpower is something that they say, if you believe that if it's an infinite resource, then it is. Whereas if you believe that it's finite, that if you believe you only have a certain amount of willpower and then it runs out, then it really does. So I think that has a lot of relevance when it comes to goal setting, because as we're talking about, a lot of people do kind of fall off the wagon. I mean, look at, we're recording this towards the end of January, and probably a lot of people who had already, who have set New Year's resolutions, a lot of them have probably already, kind of swayed away from those. So
92% of people fail before the end of January on their New Year's resolutions. Sorry,
there you go.
go ahead.
There you go. No, that's perfect. So basically I'm asking, is the lack of goal achievement, how big does willpower, how big of a factor is willpower?
You know what? I've never heard that if you believe willpower is infinite, that it is. And if you feel it's finite, it is. And you know what? I definitely see the rationale around that. But in my opinion, I mean, I think willpower will only take you so far. I mean, if I only worked out and exercise when I felt like it, I'd never work out. So, and if I only was, bit my tongue when my wife irritated me, I wouldn't have a tongue anymore. But I think with our program, I think a lot of people think that you have to be perfect when it comes to achieving your goals. And that's not the case. I mean, we're looking for progress, not perfection. That's one of our philosophies. But we're always going to have that bad day. We're always going to maybe even have a bad week or a bad month. The great thing with IGotSmarter and our program is that we've put in all these mechanisms to get you back on the wagon when you do have that bad day or that bad week. Because think about it. Think about the last time that you sat out to achieve a goal. what happened to get you off of that? And and what happened is it wasn't bad that you got off of from achieving that goal. The bad thing is that you didn't get back at it once you fell off. You didn't get back up and start doing it. And that's what we've done at IGotSmarter with, we have all kinds of alerts in there. We have programs. We break all of our goals down into 4-week sprints, even if, that the real goal is going to take you a year or 10 years. We break it down into bite-sized pieces, because our brain can wrap around that, and we know exactly where we want to be in a month, and we break that further down into milestones. And so, let's say you have a bad week and you don't hit a milestone. Well, we know what the next milestone is. So maybe we have to make up for a little lost time in that second week, or maybe even the third week. But and then also our partners there, they're trying to achieve their goals. We're trying to achieve ours, and we're there to support each other. And, Toby, if you don't check into the app after a day or two, I'm going to, as your success partner, I'm going to give you a call and see what's going on, and encourage you to get back in there if you're able to at that time. Or, hey, if you're having a bad week or you're on vacation or something like that, when you get back, I'm going to encourage you to get back in there, and you're going to want to get back there because you're my encouragement. And, as long as you keep doing that and you don't quit, you can have a bad day or a bad week, but as long as you get back at it, you're eventually going to achieve those goals. And that's where most people fail, is they have that bad week, and then all of a sudden they throw their hands up and wait for some arbitrary date like January 1st to start it with their goals again. And that's why so many people, I think it's in the 80% range, 80% of the people have the same New Year's resolutions every single year.
That's also an interesting statistic. I wonder why, people keep picking the same things and then fail at the same things. It kind of reminds you of like the what is it, the Einstein's definition of insanity, just, trying to do the same thing.
Keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me about, I guess as far as with you personally, in terms of setting goals, you wrote this book, and, you're coming on podcasts. What's next for you as far as how do you see kind of expanding your work, or do you see yourself writing more books, or what ideas do you have?
Yeah. I mean, the book, I'm proud of the book, and it's changing people's lives. I get positive feedback on it every single day. So I'm really happy for that book. But my real focus is the IGotSmarter app, because, you can get inspired and read a great book and be motivated, or go to a seminar and get motivated. But then when that motivation kind of weighs off a little bit, then you're left kind of back where you were. And that's what the IGotSmarter app is going to do, is it's going to help people really come up with that plan, really design their life, and then give them all that tools, the knowledge, the support to see that through. And, my purpose now is, along with everybody else at IGotSmarter, is we want to change the world one person and one inspiring goal at a time. And the way that we do that is by changing that one person's world. We all have that little world that we live in. Setting great goals and being able to achieve those goals, you're going to change that world. And the great thing about goals is when you're not just changing that person's life that is accomplishing the goal, you're changing the generations to follow. Because I was able to set goals and achieve goals, my children are living a drastically different life than I lived. And that's just one generation. And the generations that follow them are going to be different because of goals and personal development in my life. So that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to get this app out there and get as many users to use it, because I know it's going to affect them and their families and their lives. And it's going to help whoever uses it. It's going to help them live a more fulfilling life, and they're going to be able to really live life with purpose.
So walk me through the process. If I was to download the app right now, how would it look?
Yeah, so you would download the app, and the first thing that you're going to do is what we call our self-assessment. And what this does is this really gets you crystal clear on what goals you want to accomplish. It'll also teach you the I Got Smarter strategy and philosophies. It teaches you gratitude, because we know, if you're not happy for what you have now, chances are you're not going to be happy with what you're going to receive. It teaches the difference between being, satisfied and contempt. Two different, totally different things. Uh, and and so after all of that, you get down, and we only work on 3 goals at a time. So, it narrows it down to the 3 goals that you want to work on. It teaches you how to take these big goals that might take a year, might take 5 years, might take 10 years. It teaches you how to break those down into what we call our 4-week sprints. It teaches you how to set milestones. And then, after all of that is done, it teaches you how to write a proper goal. So many people write goals like, I want to quit smoking. Our mind doesn't do well with negative goals. It teaches you how to write a goal as if they've already happened, because when you tell yourself something, your mind will figure out a way to make it happen. So there's all these strategies and techniques that I've learned over the last 25 years that are built into it. So during that self-assessment, you're going to go through all of that. And then at the end of that, you're going to be left with the 3 goals that you want to work on. Properly written goals with the time frame in there. You're going to form a habit. Every 30 days, we do a habit. And then after that, you're going to go into, kind of the meat of the program, which is, the day in, day out stuff. And every morning we start off with what we call our morning ritual. You start off the day with gratitude. You start off learning success principles, and you start off reviewing your goals. And then through the app, you will kind of you'll do your task list. Okay, one of my goals is I want to weigh 185 pounds by February 7th. So what am I going to do today in order to reach that goal? I'm going to work out, and I'm going to limit my calorie intake to 1200. Now, as I go through that, when I'm done with my morning ritual, now my task list is automatically populated through the app. And now all I have to do after spending 5 to 10 minutes on this morning ritual is open up the app, look at my task list, and start checking things off. I know exactly what I need to do to accomplish my goals. If there's a milestone that's coming up, it pops up. And then another thing that we do through the app is we allow you to invite that success partner to help you stay accountable to yourself. And in there, every day, we're helping our success partner achieve their goals, whether it's sending them an inspirational quote, or, a video, or just, kudos or whatever. Or maybe we need to, reach out to them and get them back on. Maybe they've had a bad couple days. So the app does all of that, and it just really, drives it home that, every day you're living with focus, and exactly what needs to do, because we found a lot of people fail on their goals when they don't know what that next step is. So we've designed all that in. And then at the end of the day, we do an evening ritual, which is really a reflection on how our day was and how we're going to rate what we're doing, and really look at, because we're going to get the results of what we've done regardless. So we're just reflecting on that. We're checking in with our partner and seeing how their day went, and then kind of brainstorming on what we want to accomplish the following day. So you're just always living with purpose. Your goals are always top of mind. You always know what you need to do when you're doing those morning and evening rituals, and you always have that success partner there that's going to help you get through those tough times.
Okay. And what about, like, what are some of the most common misconceptions when it comes to like goal setting that you think like the app maybe addresses, or at least provides some structure that otherwise isn't there? Like what do you see, like, just from people you talk to, as far as like, just because you've been in this kind of field of I guess, uh, just self-help or motivational speaking, whatever you'd like to call it. But you've been in the field, I think you were saying 25 years. So what have you noticed as far as people's misconceptions about how to properly set goals and
Yeah.
actually achieve them?
I think the biggest problem most people have is one, they don't know how to write a proper goal. I mean, the one thing that we teach is every goal is, you write in the positive. So for instance, it's February 7th, 2021, and I weigh 185 pounds. I work out, 5 days a week, and I limit my calorie intake to 1,200 calories a day. That's my goal. And most people would write a goal like, I want to lose weight. And what does that mean? You lose a pound. Okay. Did you accomplish your goal? And your brain is always thinking lose, lose, lose. It doesn't work in the negative. So I think, I think that's the first problem is people don't know how to write a goal. And then I think the second biggest problem is people always want to set annual goals. They want to set these New Year's resolutions. And we just got through 2020. I mean, if there was ever a year that you couldn't determine what was going to happen within a year, it was 2020. And everybody who set goals in January, by the time April came around, they had thrown their hands up and given up. And one of our philosophies at IGotSmarter is time is our most precious resource. I mean, there's nothing you can ever do to get a second of it back. So we need to use it every second, every minute as productively as we can. Um, so, people who, had that April come around and threw their hands up and now they're waiting and ready for January 2021. I mean, when you set an annual goal, that's what happens. And then there's never that sense of urgency. We always think in the back, okay, I want to weigh 185 pounds by the end of the year. Well, there's never that sense of urgency until you hit November and December. And a lot of times what people are doing is they're kind of wasting the first part of the year because they always feel like they're going to have time to catch up. And, when we set these 4-week sprints, every day counts, every second counts. We know where we want to be, and our mind can really wrap itself around where we're going to be in 4 weeks. And we break that down even further into weekly milestones. And, one of the things I'm a true believer in is, you know, um, set look for the inches in your life, because that's where you're going to gain it. If you're looking for success in yards, it's hard. If you're looking for success in inches, it's a cinch. And that's what we've kind of done with this program, is break it down to really bite-sized pieces that we know our brain can wrap around, and we can as people as well.
I like it. What about when it comes to sort of like long-term goals, or kind of projecting, kind of what you want, your life to look like, say like 5 years down the road? And I ask this question, sort of personally invested in the answer, because, I think about, sort of the where I want to be, but don't necessarily have, like it's not a sort of a goal that I can necessarily right now know the specific steps that I need to take to get there. It's more
Yeah.
of a, this is what I want. Like here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to go. It's kind of, murky as far as seeing like the water to get to where I want to go. But like what sort of advice would you have for someone like me who's in that position?
Yeah, so I mean, let's use the money goal. I mean, let's say in 5 years you want to have $50,000 saved for your kids' college or something like that. So today, as you said here, $50,000, and I don't know what financial situation people are in, but $50,000 sounds like a lot of money to save in 5 years. I mean, so, but there, what do you feel like you can do today about saving $50,000? Probably not much, because it's such a big number and it's so far away. So what we teach you at IGotSmarter is, okay, let's break that down. What can I do in the next 4 weeks to get me closer to that goal? And maybe that's, I want to cut $250 out of my bills and my budget over the next 4 weeks. And, I'm going to set a milestone. That my first milestone is I'm going to go through all of my utilities and see where I can cut. Maybe I'm going to cut some channels on my cable bill that I don't want and save some money there. And maybe I'm going to go through and cut out a few subscriptions on Apple. But I know exactly what I'm looking to do this week. And I know every day I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to open up my, subscriptions on Apple and see which ones I can cut out of there. And then at the end of the month, I want to have $250 cut out of my budget. And I know exactly where that's at. Now, $250 is a far cry from 50 grand, right? But I did something this month. That urgency was there because it was only 4 weeks away. And now the next month, I can do something else. Maybe I'm going to figure out how to make an extra $300 on an online business or something, along those lines. But every single 4 week sprint is getting me closer to that 50 grand. And what you'll find out is when you really plan that out every single 4 week sprint, you're going to get there a lot sooner than you ever thought imaginable, because you have that urgency. You're always working on it every single day. And that's how you take those big goals and really work on them consistently every day, because our mind loves progress too. You're seeing that progress is, oh, wow, I just saved $250 off of my bills for the month. And, now I want to have $300 in savings at the end of this month. And you set about doing that. And the next month, maybe I want to have $700, and you figure out how to do that. And it just, success begets success. And before you know it, those big goals, it's the age old thing, how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that's what our program really shows you is here's this small little bite that doesn't seem significant, but as I'm consistent with it over the next 4 years or 5 years, it adds up to be, a huge goal, bigger than you could ever imagine.
Are there many changes or many differences in the different domains of goal setting, as far as like setting goals with, say, relationships versus money versus business? You're shaking your head no. So it's a similar, you
Yeah,
take a similar outlook no matter the domain.
Yeah, every goal, this program will help you with every goal. I mean, my number one goal is I want to be married for 50 years, to my wife. And that's, I just celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary. So I'm halfway there, but, and that's a goal that, in IGotSmarter, another problem I think people have with goals is they focus on too many goals at the same time. So during any given 4 week sprint, we're working on only 3 goals. Now, that doesn't mean we can only have 3 goals. I mean, I've got lots of goals, but I'm only focusing on 3 goals every 4 week sprint. And sometimes I focus on my relationship goal with my wife. Usually, if I feel like, okay, we're not as close as we are, or maybe an anniversary is coming up or her birthday, I'll make sure that marriage goal, that long-term 50-year goal, I'm working on that relationship this 4 week sprint. So maybe I'm going to plan to have a great birthday for her and make it special, or an anniversary or something, because, in that goal, in that month, that's helping me get to that long-term goal of being married for 50 years, because you don't just blink your eyes and end up, okay, we're married for 50 years. It's all those small things. But at the same time, fortunately, our relationship is pretty good most of the time. So it doesn't have to be that laser focus. I can focus on other things throughout the year and vary my 4 week sprints. Same thing with my health, same thing with relationships with kids or spirituality or business or finance. Sometimes when you're starting a new business, that's going to be your focus, and that's okay. I don't believe in the whole, your life has to be totally balanced. I mean, there's sometimes that your life has to be out of balance. That doesn't mean you're sacrificing everything, but sometimes I'm focusing on my business a lot more than I am my health. But that's okay.
Awesome. Well, Nelson, I really enjoyed talking with you today. And for the listeners who also enjoyed our discussion, where would you direct them to learn more about your work or to get your book?
Yeah. My book is available everywhere books are sold. Amazon's probably the easiest. It's called The Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices. And then you can go to nelsontressler.com. And there, if you go to nelsontressler.com, you can actually sign up to get 30 free days of the IGotSmarter app. And the app is available on Apple and Android on the app stores. It's IGotSmarter, all one word.
Right on. And Nelson, last question. I love the title of your book. I want to hear how did you come up with that?
Well, you heard kind of the start of my life, and you hear about the Lucky Sperm Club. Those people born into privilege, and they have every opportunity to succeed, and that's why they're successful. A lot of people say, but I took the opposite spin on it. Because of the hardships that I had to go through early on in life, it gave me fuel to want to be successful. And the Unlucky Sperm Club, in my opinion, is really the Lucky Sperm Club. If you can work through that and use that as fuel and drive to succeed.
Love it. Well, for those of you guys who did enjoy the podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're Roscoe's Wetsuit Neuro. And you can also find audio versions of the podcast available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and just about anywhere else that audio podcasts are available. Nelson, I wanted to again really thank you for coming on the show today. Really enjoyed your discussion. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Toby. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.